Hi, it's time for a mail call video. We haven't had a mail call video in a while. I was sort of queued up by a fella who sent me this box. His name is James and he's from Park City, Utah. And he was taking out a NuTone system and he said, I've got some things that I think you might be interested in for your YouTube channel. And if you don't mind, I'm going to pack them all up and send them to you. And I said, sure, James, that sounds like a plan to me. So it's a pretty good sized box and it's pretty heavy, probably weighs 12 or 14 pounds. And so let's see what kind of NuTone goodness James sent. Go ahead, open it up here. Got some paper, which we'll throw on the floor. We've got a transformer, because obviously James is thorough and he sent everything. So we've got a transformer. It's a NuTone 401T, which is a giveaway for me. He also sort of clued me in a little bit about what he was sending. And what we've got here are two really raggedy looking NuTone surveillance video cameras. These are the model VC1000. VC1000 could be exterior mounted video surveillance cameras. All of this equipment is from the early 90s. And here we have a NuTone ISV58, which is a video entry door station with speaker and doorbell push button. And we've got more paper. We've got a NuTone VS1000, which is the video control module for the VIS video entry system. More paper. An inside remote control from a NuTone IM5006, which sort of clues you in as to how this system was installed. James obviously had an IM5006 intercom system and the companion VIS video equipment mounted alongside of it, just like they showed in the catalog. And finally, we've got a NuTone, oh no, there's more, and a NuTone VIS 1000M video monitor station. Great big thing here, with all kinds of NuTone goodness on the back. And there's not only one of those, but there are two. How about that? I haven't seen these since these were brand new. Got a little access door right there. Let's go ahead and get rid of the box and take a closer look at what all this is. Alright, so here's all the NuTone goodness that James from Utah sent me. Back in the early 1990s, believe it or not, I think it was 90 or 91, NuTone came out with the IM5006 intercom system, and as a companion to it, they came out with the VIS video entry system. The VIS was not the first video entry system that NuTone had ever made. Prior to that, back in the middle 80s, they came out with the VS1000, which was a little self-contained video entry system with door cameras, surveillance cameras, and little self-contained monitor stations with a handset that you could talk to people at the entry doors through. The VIS system was a more expanded version of that design, and it allowed you more flexibility with how many cameras and so forth that you could have. Also, the VIS system was designed that it could be incorporated and function along with a standard NuTone intercom system. It could have been installed with the IM5006, which is the way it was shown in the catalog. It could have been done with a 4006 or a 3003, any model that you wanted to. And that was because the inside monitor stations also had speaker cones built into them that were designed to work with whichever inside remote control you needed to make it compatible and work with whatever NuTone intercom system you had. Now, the video part wasn't technically part of the intercom system. It was an entirely separate system, but the idea was that you would have this on the wall, this great big giant thing, and next to it you would have a wall remote control, or you can mount it underneath or whatever. As you can see, this was always somewhat of an awkward arrangement, but that's the way they did it back in those days. and the wall remote control gave you access to the intercom system, and the speaker built in here allows you to talk and it would play music and so forth. And then you had your video monitor station, and the video monitor station has a 4-inch black and white CRT screen, and you can see all the CRT goodness here. You've got a bunch of power supply stuff down here to drive the CRT, because the CRT is high voltage, so you need a high voltage supply. And you can see part of the yoke windings right here through the little window, and you got other circuitry up here. So this is all entirely separate from the little speaker. You might wonder what the little door is for. And in this case, James put his system directory for his IM5006 in here, so he knew which station was which call number. But the other part of this was, at that time, NuTone had also gotten into their version of automation or home control. Part of the home control system was this big, giant handheld remote control that allowed you to turn lights and appliances on and off. And this section right here actually came out. It's sort of an insert, which you can see here has a hole right here, or a place for a hole where you could put a door release button if you had a gate or something like that. And then it has these two metal brackets that would hold the remote control in place. So the idea was that you could open the door and there was the remote control, and you could push buttons and make it do things. The home control was not technically part of the intercom system. It wasn't really part of the video system. It was just another system you could have in your house. It was the heyday of all of this advanced type of design that was going on in the early 90s. The controls here have to do with the monitor. You can turn the monitor on and off with the on-off button. You had a camera button which allowed you to scroll through different camera inputs if you had more than one camera, and then you had a brightness and a contrast control for the CRT screen. The hub of the system was the VIS 1000, and this is basically a video switching module. It has 5 or 6 different camera inputs and a single camera output. Power is down here, and these would all of the video equipment would all be wired together through this using RG58 video grade coax. When you would use the camera button on the remote, it would switch between the 6 different inputs that you could have. So what could you have as cameras? Well, you certainly would have one NuTone IS58V, and this is a combination entry door station with video camera and then the doorbell button. Like the inside monitors, the door speaker is not technically part of the video system. It just happens to be mounted in the same housing. It uses a special little tiny, I think it's a 2.5-inch speaker cone, and it is wired through a connector that's wired to the speaker terminals on the back here, but it's not really incorporated into the camera circuitry in any way. It's just a convenient way to do it. And then you have a standard NuTone doorbell button here. So the speaker and the doorbell button would be connected up to whichever intercom system you already had, and then the coaxial cable would connect up the camera to the video system. One of the things that's interesting about this whole entire design is most video systems, and this is the outdoor video surveillance camera, and it's on its little bracket here still, which allows you to tilt and pan. And we're going to go ahead and let's take that off because that'll be easier. Anybody who's ever done any old school closed circuit TV work would recognize one of the things that's different about this compared to standard closed circuit TV cameras like before the 90s. Here we have a standard coaxial cable connector, but there's no other connectors on the back of the camera at all. Most video surveillance cameras you would have, or closed circuit TV cameras, you would have a coaxial connector for the video, but you would also have two other connectors for power to power the camera. But that's not the way the NuTone system operated. The way NuTone's technology worked was the video signal and the power for the cameras was all carried on the coaxial cable, and then there is circuitry inside each camera and inside each monitor, which when the power and the signal came in on the same video coax, which we have a piece of right here. Here's a piece of RG58 that James sent, and it's got the real NuTone connector on the end, and these are little push-on connectors like this. The video signal and the power comes in on the coax, and then there's circuitry inside the camera which strips apart the power and the video signal and sends it to different parts of the board, so you don't need extra wires to supply power. It's all in the coax. It was an interesting design. It was a 90s bit of technology. The problem that it creates later on is it was not widely adopted by most companies, so it became sort of proprietary to the 90s. And when people have these systems now, and none of this is available anymore, and they break down, you can't just go down and buy a regular closed-circuit TV camera and put it in its place, because it doesn't have the right type of circuitry built into it. And since it wasn't widely adopted, nobody uses it today. So it's kind of an orphan technology. To have all of this in, say, 1991, you had to be seriously bucks up, because this was all hugely expensive, and you're going to be shocked to find out how much all of this would have cost, say, back in 1991. The IS58V video door entry camera, these are list price. List price was $780. Okay, and each VIS 1000M monitor station, which would be the video monitor module and the housing, the faceplate part, which was available in different colors. We had white, almond, and I think there was brown. That was $575. Each VS 1000 video surveillance camera was $560. And the lowly old VIS 1000 video switcher module, it was only $185. That was the bargain piece of the whole thing. So right here, if you had paid list price, you've got the better part of $3,000 worth of video equipment, and that's not even counting the cabling, and you got to pay some guy to put it all in, and hopefully it works. There were a lot of limitations on how it could be installed. The specific type of cable that you had to use, it had to be RG58 video grade coaxial cable, none of this RG59 cable TV system type cable. It had to be the video grade stuff. And you were also limited on the length of cable to each camera, and also the total length of cable for the entire system. If you exceeded the cable lengths that NuTone said, and when they said 100 feet, they meant 100 feet. They didn't mean 110 feet, they meant 100 feet. And if you exceeded that, what would happen on the system is you would lose, first, the horizontal sync on the monitor, and the picture would periodically roll. And if you spent $5,000 or $6,000 on a video entry system setup, you're not going to live with a rolling picture every 10 seconds, and that was a problem. There was a conversion that you could make where if you had to have longer runs, you could use RG6, and RG6 is big old fat hot dog size video cable, and then you have to make up transitions because the RG6 won't fit on the connectors anywhere, so you have to make up these video F-type connector conversions to transition the big giant RG6 down to the RG58 so you could hook it up on stuff. And these were all things that were not readily available in the early 90s. You know, there was no internet yet, so you had to have a source that you could order that kind of stuff from and know how to make up the connectors, which is a giant pain in the neck. The worst part about all of this, if you fast forward, say, 10 years and you get to 2001, anything like this that was outside after 10 years, it was pretty well shot. And what would typically happen to these is the housings, if they got water inside of them, it would get the circuitry wet, and that would ruin it because it would corrode. All of the cameras are all CCD chip technology, really early video closed-circuit TV camera technology. And the problem with CCD chip technology is when you have it in outdoor cameras, the intense light from the sun slowly degrades the sensitivity of the CCD chips, and you very gradually lose any contrast in the picture. And that was true for these. These were the worst ones, because if these were mounted like on an eave or something outside in the house, they weren't very well protected, and they a lot of exposure to the weather. You can see how ratty these are, and they just had a fairly short life. And the same thing happened to the video entry stations. The CCD chip for the camera would slowly lose its contrast, and eventually what you would end up with is a picture that was mostly all washed out. It was a lot of grays and no blacks, and you really couldn't see who was there. By the time all of that had happened, this type of technology had become already obsolete after 10 years. I know for the video entry cameras, I'm not sure about the surveillance cameras, but maybe the same. The video camera module, the CCD chip module, it was made by Sanyo, and it wasn't made just for NuTone. It was probably used in a lot of different products. Of course, that video technology was advancing rapidly in those days, and it became obsolete and not available anymore. You can't buy the modules. I remember I contacted Sanyo many times about trying to find a source for replacement modules so we could fix these. At one point I was finally told, please stop asking us, because we don't make those anymore and we don't really care about it anymore, so tell your customer to buy something new. And it was only a few years after 2001 that a lot of this type of equipment all of a sudden started to become color equipment instead of black and white, and color makes all the difference. So there you have a look at some early 90s NuTone video equipment that James sent in. There will be more about this, because according to him, all of this does still work. And it'll be interesting to see if that's true, and we'll do a more complete review of it over time. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube, because that always helps. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications. And every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.